next challenge is entitled Retrieve the Subreddit. You are to create a function to extract the name of the subreddit from its URL. Let's check the examples. So we have this link to reddit.com, then we have an R, and then we have funny, which is presumably the name of the subreddit. Forgive me, I'm not an avid Reddit user. And so we return funny. And notice this same pattern repeating. We got this point up to the R, then some other term enclosed in forward slashes, returns relationships, and mildly interesting returns mildly interesting. So I think that's pretty clear. We can head over to the code. And as usual, please be sure to pause and do your own implementation. Resume when you're ready. So for this, there's a way to do this very simply using some techniques that we've learned already. I'll go through that first, and then I wanted to also show a solution using regular expressions to sort of expand on the way we've been using them in the past to slowly let you see another side of them, another way they can be used. So for the first quick way to power through this, for this specific example, I decided to just take, return, we got the link, and what I want to do is use the substring method that we've used in the past. And hopefully you recall that if I pass this an index, that tells me where to basically start the cutting from. So I'll go back to the instructions. I'll notice that if I count these up, part that I've highlighted here, this will come out to 25 characters. So I'm going to say 25 here. And then remember, you could pass another argument saying how many letters you want to take. In this case, I'm going to leave it like this and say just take everything after this forward slash. So I'll get, in this first example, I would get funny with the closing forward slash there. So obviously that won't quite work for the result. There's no slashes in the result. So let's just pluck that. And if you recall, we had a method replace, which allowed us to do just that, where we say the character we want to replace, and we also provided a replacement character. So this will take all forward slashes. There should only be one, but it would take all of them, and replace them with empty string, effectively deleting them. So I think this is enough to solve the problem. If you did something like this, great. Let's run it to be sure. Cool, looks good there. So yeah, that's fine. If you want to stop here, you can. Otherwise, I want to talk a little bit about how to use regular expressions in a different way. So to that end, let's try something new. Let's say string pattern, and let's build a regular expression pattern, but I'm going to do it in a different way to show you something new. You can use parentheses within your pattern to basically group chunks of it, and then you can refer to them by index later. And so I'm going to take and break this down into a few pieces. I'm going to say this part is one chunk, and I'm going to say the part we want is one chunk, and then there's a third, just basically the trailing parenthesis here. So we know this first part is always the same. They didn't mention anything. I don't know if there's a unsecure version that doesn't have the HTTPS. There's an HTTP. I don't know. I think it's always secure for this example. So I'm going to grab that text, and that's going to be my first group. This string literally, no sort of matching magic going on. Let's say group 1 will be this part. Call that group 1. And then I'm going to have another part. Now, I can't just write out the text funny, right? Because that would match only funny, and we would miss relationships and anything else. So there's a way, can't remember if we've used it in the past, but to look for word characters. And for that, we've seen this before, but let me show you again in case you've forgotten. Matches any word character. Perfect. This backslash lowercase w. And I don't want a single one. I want one or more. So if you look further down here, I think I scrolled too far. Let me get back for you. Here we go. Matches, look at the plus sign here, matches the previous element one or more times. So that's what I want. I need to have one or more letter, right, to make the word. The subreddit. So let's combine those two terms. And we'll say backslash W to match a word character, and then the plus sign is going to say, hey, one or more of those. And then finally, we know it ends literally in a /. So I'll just put that into a group too. So if you notice here, I've used parentheses to make 3 groups out of the entire link. And there's one problem with this that I'll show you. Let me just return something to not make that be the error. But, let me refresh this so I don't submit. Okay, so let's run this. We're going to get an error. Beyond just returning the wrong answer, I mean. So we got this, look at this, on line 5, spot 50, if you wanted to count that out, you could. Unrecognized escape sequence \W. So the string as is trying to escape this and say, hey, this isn't the text \W, and it's trying to actually interpret this in a different way. And for our pattern, we don't want that. You know, the regular expression class can work with that and do the magic. But for our pattern, I'm going to add this @ symbol, and this tells it to interpret this string literally. It will not try to do any kind of escape analysis and convert those into what they're supposed to be by the definition of escape characters. You can Google that term escape characters if you want more information. If you find resources are lacking or just want to ask in the comments below, that's fine too, and I'll talk more about that. I'm going to assume you're okay with that for now. And so, yeah, this @ symbol will say, hey, this is just text now, take it as it is. And so if I check, I should at least I'll get wrong answers, but hopefully that error goes away. Okay, good. Yeah, so now we just have wrong answers because we keep returning an empty string. Good, but no more error here with blowing up over trying to interpret this. Good. So, we've used regex before. I'm going to make a match. Say regex match. Feel free to consult the docs if you don't remember this. And then I'm going to say the link. Remember, we give a string input and then a pattern to use for the matching. So that should give us a match. Is this match? Match groups. No, I had the wrong doc. Yeah, so here's that match method here, and there's a bunch of overloads. We're using the one with 2 strings, and you can see that here. They'll likely have an example for us. Yeah. Regex match, input pattern. We were given the input, we made our own pattern. Good. See, they used the @ symbol here too, like we did. So good, we know we get this match object back. That's what's returned from this. And then we'll see, we're going to use the match object returned to tap this groups property that I will show. So, let's do that. Let's say after we've run this, let me add a little output. Console write line, and let's go match count, match groups count. And why not? We can run that to see if we're hitting matches. Still wrong answers. Type of namespace. Match cannot be found. Yeah, and look at that. They were nice enough to tell us we are missing system text regular expressions. Let's add that. Using system text regular expressions to bring that in. I'm going to bring system in for the console right line. I think I need that. Okay, so let's see if we're getting any kind of matching off our pattern. Okay, good. Look at this. We hit 4 matches. Now, that's a little odd, right? We made 3 groups. What's this 4 matching count thing going on? So let's go back to that groups page. Groups. What's this? Gets a collection of groups matched by the regular expression. So that's what you would expect. And then there are some important notes on this page. This was a nice example using a phone number. See how they have 2 groups here? They have parentheses around the area code, and then the actual telephone number itself is enclosed in parentheses too. So they got 2 groups there. And we're going to do something like this, but what I wanted to show you right now is that this match groups property is a 0-based collection that always has at least 1 member. If the regular expression engine cannot find any matches, the single group object in the collection is set to false, and the value property set to empty string, fine. If it does find a match, note this: the element at index 0, the first object returned by the group's property, contains a string that matches the entire regular expression pattern. Each subsequent element from index 1 upward represents a captured group. So it's almost like our groups are 1-based, because index 0 of this groups is going to have the entire pattern itself matching. So, and you can kind of get a hint for that in this example, right? Notice how they started with groups 1 and groups 2. Groups 1 matches their area code, groups 2 matches their telephone number, and they didn't use 0. That would have matched the whole thing. And you see their output breaks it apart here. So yeah, that's why we got that 4 count. In their case, they would have a 3 count. They had 2 groups, and then there's one that describes the whole thing. Don't be put off by this matches. Remember, we're using the singular match, but you can do this for multiple, and there's a match collection. And I'm trying not to go too far down the rabbit hole, but while we're here, it could be useful to put in the back of your mind that if you have a string like this or a text file that has a bunch of examples, you can run this in plural, basically, and look for all of them. But yeah, we're just doing with a single match right now. So, okay, that's some good extra info. Nothing wrong here then with a 4 count. That's fine. So let's go through and check what we got in this thing. 4 equals 0 is less than match groups count plus was increment I. And then we can say console right line. And let's say we should print what the match is. Let's say matched at index 1. Okay. And now we can take match groups. Remember how they did it? And we'll use I in this case, and then we'll go through all of them. And then I also want the index. Oh, I missed a part. Groups, we need to tap the value property to get the match itself. And then match groups I dot index will give us the corresponding index where it's found. So let's try running this and see what kind of output we get. I'll remove this one, since I think we're good there. Let's see what this comes up with. And in terms of this value and index thing, you can go back to the group class and find those properties if that's too weird for you and you want more information about that. So here we go, matched At index, remember the first entry we got was the whole thing, and that looks right, that is the whole thing. We got another one that matched the first part, everything up to the subreddit, cool. Then we got one that matched relationships. Hey, that's what we wanted, right? That's the subreddit itself, and it told you that was at index 25. And then finally we matched our third group, that lone / at the end at index 38. So that should make it pretty clear, right? There's something we want in here, and that's this bit right here. And that would have happened at group 2, right? 0 was the whole thing. Number 1 returned, group 1 returned this part, and group 2 would be this part, the part that we want. So at this point, I think you can say return match groups 2.value, right? That's what they wanted, the subreddit. This other stuff we don't need in our answer. That was to help us kind of picture what was going on throughout this process. And if we check that, I think we might be okay. Okay, yeah. So there you have it, another way to do it using regular expressions. I know that was probably overkill for this example, but these things are so powerful. If you have to, just believe me for now and just take that on faith, and that going through the trouble of learning them will pay off for you in dividends down the line. So yeah, another fine solution there, I think. I'm sure there are 100 other ways, so as usual, share yours below and hit me up with questions. I hope you found this helpful. We'll see you in the next challenge.